You are standing in a room that looks exactly like your life, but the air has grown thin. You look in the mirror, and for a split second, you don't recognize the person staring back. It's not that you've aged, it's that you become a stranger to the very principles you once swore would define you. Most people think that losing your way is a dramatic event, a grand betrayal, or a sudden fall from grace. But the truth is far more terrifying. The abandonment of your values is a quiet, microscopic erosion. It's a series of polite nods when you should have spoken up. It's the slow replacement of your internal compass with a GPS programmed by a system that doesn't care if you arrive at your soul, as long as you arrive at your desk. We are living in an era where the greatest tragedy isn't that we fail, but that we succeed at being people we never intended to be. Today, we are going to look at the 4 behaviors that prove you have quietly surrendered your territory to the Matrix. This isn't a wake-up call, it's an autopsy of the person you used to be, performed so that the person you were meant to become can finally breathe. The weight of a life unlived is the heaviest thing a human being can carry. We often talk about regret as something that happens at the very end, in those sterile hospital rooms where the fluorescent lights hum like a dirge. But regret is not a destination, it is a process of accumulation. It begins when you start trading your why for a how much. We look at the top 5 regrets of the dying, and the most common one is always the same. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Why is this so universal? Because the system we inhabit is designed to reward your compliance and punish your authenticity. It offers you comfort in exchange for your conviction. It offers you a steady paycheck in exchange for your silence. We enter this world with a fire in our bellies, a sense of what is right, what is beautiful, and what is true. But the world is a cold place, and it spends every waking moment trying to blow that fire out. We find ourselves in a state of emotional anesthesia, using the digital noise and the constant pursuit of status to drown out the screaming of our own conscience. We are slaves who have learned to love our chains because they are gold-plated. If this resonates, consider subscribing. You might feel a sense of dread as you realize how much of yourself you have edited out to fit into the narrative of the world. You might see this hollow feeling in your chest as a sign of failure, as a symptom of depression, or as a midlife crisis. But here is the twist. This discomfort is not a malfunction. It is your soul's last line of defense. That void you feel when you achieve a goal that doesn't matter to you, that isn't a problem to be solved with more productivity or a new hobby. It is a transition of consciousness. The pain you feel is the friction between the lie you are living and the truth of who you are. It is the beginning of an awakening. Most people spend their lives trying to patch the holes in their sinking ship. But perhaps the ship needs to sink. Perhaps you need to reach the bottom of the ocean before you can realize that you were always meant to swim, not to sail on a vessel built by others. The Matrix isn't a computer simulation. It's the collective agreement to value the image over the essence, the resume over the character, and the safety of the crowd over the solitude of the self. To understand how we lost ourselves, we must look to those who stared into the abyss before us. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the slave morality, a state where we define our values based on what is safe and what makes us acceptable to the herd. We have abandoned the will to power, not power over others, but power over our own destiny, in favor of a mediocre comfort. We have become the last man, the one who seeks nothing but warmth and security, the one who has lost the ability to despise himself because he no longer has an ideal to measure himself against. Then there is Albert Camus, who reminded us of the absurd. He told us that the world has no inherent meaning, and that the greatest act of rebellion is to create our own meaning, despite the silence of the universe. When you abandon your values, you are refusing to rebel. You are accepting a prepackaged meaning handed to you by a corporation or a social trend. You are like Sisyphus, but instead of pushing your own rock, you are pushing a rock that belongs to a shareholder you've never met. If this resonates, consider subscribing. Søren Kierkegaard warned us about the despair of finitude. This is the despair of becoming so lost in the mundane, the practical, and the social expectations that you forget you are a unique spiritual being. You become a cipher, a number in a ledger. You do what is expected, you say what is appropriate, and you die without ever having been a self. Arthur Schopenhauer saw the world as a manifestation of a blind, restless will, a constant hunger that can never be satisfied. When we abandon our values for the sake of pleasure or social standing, we are simply feeding this will, becoming puppets to our biological and social impulses. We think we are choosing our lives, but we are merely reacting to the stimuli the system provides. We are like Epicurus's critics, chasing vain desires that promise happiness but leave us more exhausted than before. Martin Heidegger spoke of the they, das Man. We lose our authenticity by falling into the everydayness of the world, where we think what they think, feel what they feel, and live how they live. Your values are the only thing that separates you from the they. Without them, you are a ghost inhabiting a biological machine. Imagine your life as a grand ancient cathedral. When you were young, the stained glass was vibrant. The altars were dedicated to things you truly loved, perhaps truth or creativity or justice or love. But as the years went by, the system convinced you that the cathedral was too expensive to maintain. It told you that the light from the stained glass didn't help with productivity. So, one by one, you boarded up the windows. You replaced the hand-carved altars with vending machines. You covered the sacred silence with the white noise of digital consumption. Now you walk through the halls of your own mind, and it feels like a warehouse. It's functional, yes. It's successful by the standards of the street outside, but the divinity is gone. The echo of your own footsteps sounds hollow, because there is nothing left for the sound to bounce off of. You have become a landlord of a space you no longer inhabit. This is the central metaphor of the modern soul. We are magnificent structures that have been repurposed into storage units for someone else's inventory. The Matrix doesn't want to destroy your cathedral. It wants to rent it out. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The danger here is that when we realize our cathedral is empty, we turn to the very system that emptied it for a solution. We seek self-help that is really just self-optimization, learning how to be a better cog in the machine. We chase hedonism, thinking that if we can just accumulate enough high-definition pleasures, the low-definition ache in our hearts will go away. We use dopamine as a bandage for a severed limb. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like, all while our values sit in the basement, gathering dust. This life of the machine is a form of slow-motion suicide. It is the belief that if you just follow the script, if you just check the boxes, if you just grind hard enough, you will eventually earn the right to be yourself. But the system is designed so that eventually never comes. The finish line is always 5 miles further than your current exhaustion. The false solutions of the Matrix, the endless scrolling, the performative outrage, the obsession with metrics, are all designed to keep you from looking at the boarded-up windows of your soul. To reclaim your life, you must introduce a new paradigm, the paradigm of radical integrity. This isn't about being perfect or moral in a religious sense. It is about being integrated. It is about closing the gap between what you believe and what you do. It is about Dasein, being there, as Heidegger put it. To live in the new paradigm is to accept that your values are not optional accessories. They are the very soil in which your existence is rooted. Without them, you are a cut flower, looking beautiful for a few days in a vase of social approval, but dying at the stem. Authenticity is not a personality trait. It is an act of war against a world that profits from your self-alienation. It means being willing to be the villain in someone else's story, if that is the price of being the hero in your own. It means choosing the uncomfortable truth over the comfortable lie. It means recognizing that your time on this planet is a finite resource that is being strip-mined by interests that do not have your best intentions at heart. If this resonates, consider subscribing. You might argue, but I have bills to pay, I have a family to support. I can't just quit my job and live in the woods like Thoreau. This is the voice of your conditioning. It's a valid fear, but it's being used as a shield to protect you from the responsibility of choice. Integrity doesn't always mean a radical external change. It starts with a radical internal shift. It's about how you show up in the room you are already in. It's about the conversations you stop having, the jokes you stop laughing at, and the standards you stop compromising. You think you are protecting your life by abandoning your values, but what life are you protecting if the you who lives it has disappeared? The system wants you to believe that survival and integrity are mutually exclusive. It wants you to believe that to eat, you must swallow your pride. But the most successful people in the history of the human spirit were those who realized that bread without honor tastes like ash. Your family doesn't need a provider who is a hollow shell. They need a father, a mother, a partner who is actually there, possessed of a soul that is still intact. Let us look at the story of a man we will call Julian. Julian was the ultimate success story of the Matrix. He had the corner office, the perfect family photos, and a reputation for getting things done. He had long ago abandoned his youthful values of artistic honesty and deep connection for the sake of efficiency and strategic growth. He told himself he was doing it for his children. But one day, at a corporate retreat, he was asked to write his own obituary as an exercise in legacy building. He sat there for an hour, pen hovering over the paper. He realized that if he were honest, his obituary would read, "Here lies Julian. He met all his KPIs, he never caused trouble, and he died without ever knowing why he was alive." That night, Julian didn't have a breakthrough, he had a breakdown. He wandered into the hotel bar and realized he didn't even know what he liked to drink. He only knew what his boss liked to drink. This collapse of his hedonic mask was the greatest gift he ever received. He realized that the success he had built was actually a tomb. He spent the next 3 years dismantling the life he had built to make room for the life that was waiting for him. He lost money, he lost friends, but he found his pulse. If this resonates, consider subscribing. This process of reclamation is like the metaphor of decomposition. For a new forest to grow, the old dead wood must rot. You must be willing to let the fake you die. You must allow your current identity, the one that is palatable to the system, to decompose. This is a visceral, painful process. It feels like a death because it is a death. But the emptiness that follows is not a desert, it is a fallow field. In the silence of the void, you can finally hear the whisper of your own values. The void is not your enemy, it is your teacher. It is the space where the matrix cannot reach you. When you stop filling every second with noise and every desire with a purchase, you find that there is a core of you that is untouchable. Like a phoenix, you don't just change, you are consumed by the fire of your own realization and reborn from the ashes of your compromises. The decomposition of your false self is the most sacred work you will ever do. It is the only way to ensure that you don't arrive at the end of your life only to discover that you never lived it. So, how do you begin? First, you must inhabit the void. Stop running. When the feeling of something is wrong arises, don't reach for your phone. Don't reach for a drink. Sit with it. Let it burn. This is the sickness unto death that Kierkegaard spoke of, the realization that your current state is intolerable. Second, you must recognize the conditioning of the system. Start noticing how many of your choices are actually reactions to social pressure or fear of scarcity. Identify the behaviors where you are betraying your values. Are you being polite when you should be honest? Are you busy when you should be purposeful? Third, you must stop fleeing. Stop making excuses for why you can't be yourself. The right time to have integrity is always now. There is no future version of the Matrix that will give you permission to be free. You must take your freedom, and the price of that freedom is the discomfort of being different. You must be willing to be unoptimized for the system so that you can be optimized for your soul. If this resonates, consider subscribing. What we initially perceived as a crisis, the realization that we have abandoned our values, is actually the beginning of our liberation. The 4 behaviors that show you've left yourself are not a life sentence. They are diagnostic signs. They are the alarm bells ringing in the middle of the night, telling you that the house is on fire. But the house that is burning is the prison you were told was a palace. When you stop betraying your values, the system loses its power over you. It can no longer bribe you with things you don't need, and it can no longer threaten you with the loss of things that don't matter. You become dangerous because you are no longer predictable. You are no longer a consumer. You are a creator. You are no longer a subject. You are a sovereign. The abandonment of your values was the price of admission to the matrix. Reclaiming them is your exit ticket. If this resonates, consider subscribing. We often spend our lives waiting for a sign, for a mentor, or for a miracle to save us from the hollowness of our existence. But the miracle is the ache itself. The fact that you can still feel the absence of your values means that they are still there, waiting in the shadows of the cathedral you boarded up. The behaviors of betrayal, the silence, the anesthesia, the performance, are merely masks. Beneath them is the person you were before the world told you who you should be. Do not wait until the fluorescent lights of the hospital room are the only thing you have left to look at. Open the windows now. Let the light hit the dust. Remember that the system can own your time, it can own your labor, and it can even own your image, but it can only own your values if you hand them over, take them back. Because in the end, when the noise of the world fades and the matrix finally glitches out, the only thing you will truly have is the person you chose to be when no one was looking. Live in a way that makes the mirror a place of recognition, not a place of exile. You are not a cog, you are the architect. It is time to rebuild. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The betrayal of the self is the only sin that the soul cannot forgive, not because it is vengeful, but because the self is the only thing we truly have to offer the world. When you abandon your values to fit into the system, you are like a musician who smashes his instrument to please a crowd that came to hear him play. The silence that follows is not peace. It is the sound of a missed opportunity that echoes through eternity. We are told that the matrix is a cage of steel and glass, but it is actually a cage of yeses that should have been nos. It is a prison built from the bricks of your own compromises. Every time you choose your values over your convenience, you remove a brick. Every time you speak your truth over your safety, you kick down a wall. You don't need to find a secret exit, you just need to stop building the prison. The journey back to yourself is long, and the world will try to pull you back into the warmth of the herd. But remember, the herd is headed for the slaughterhouse of air regret. Walk the other way. If this resonates, consider subscribing. Let us consider the 4th behavior, the commodification of your own suffering. The system has a way of turning even our pain into a product. We share our struggles not for connection, but for engagement. We turn our healing into a brand. This is the ultimate abandonment of values, when even your deepest existential crises are performative. To reclaim your values is to reclaim your privacy. It is to have a sacred interior that the system cannot see, cannot track, and cannot monetize. It is to do what is right because it is right, not because it looks good on a profile. It is to return to the ancient idea of virtue, which is its own reward. When your internal world is more important than your external projection, the matrix loses its grip. You are no longer a data point. You are a mystery. And in a world of total surveillance and total predictability, being a mystery is the ultimate act of defiance. If this resonates, consider subscribing. To abandon your values is to commit the crime of living in the third person. It is to watch your own life as if it were a movie starring someone else. You see the character making choices you don't agree with, going to places you don't like, and saying words you don't mean. You shout at the screen, but the character doesn't listen because you have given up the director's chair. Reclaiming your values is the act of stepping back into the frame. It is the realization that the movie isn't over yet, and the script can be rewritten at any moment. The behaviors we discussed, the masks, the silences, the distractions, are just habits of a sleeping mind. Once you are awake, you see them for what they are, the tattered costumes of a play that has gone on for far too long. The audience is leaving. The lights are dimming. It is time to take off the costume and go home to yourself. If this resonates, consider subscribing. We began this journey by looking at the mirror and seeing a stranger. But if you have followed this path of reflection, if you have felt the sting of these truths, then the stranger is starting to look familiar. The eyes in the mirror are starting to burn with a light that doesn't come from the room. That light is your integrity. It is the part of you that the Matrix could not kill no matter how hard it tried. It is the small, persistent voice that said no when everyone else said yes. Whoa! It is the values you thought you had lost, but were only hiding, waiting for you to be brave enough to look for them. The world will tell you that you are losing your mind. It will tell you that you are being unrealistic or difficult. Let it. Being difficult for the system is the only way to be easy for your soul. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The architecture of your hollow cathedral can be restored. The boards can be ripped off the windows. The vending machines can be thrown out. The altars can be rebuilt. It won't be easy, and it won't be fast. There will be days when the silence of the void feels overwhelming, and you will be tempted to crawl back into the noise of the Matrix. But you cannot unsee what you have seen. You cannot unknow the cost of your compliance. The 4 behaviors are now visible to you, and once a cage is visible, it can no longer hold you. You are free not because the world has changed, but because you have stopped asking it for permission to exist. The system is a ghost that only has power if you believe in it. Your values are the only thing that is real. If this resonates, consider subscribing. As we reach the end of this reflection, remember the words of Viktor Frankl. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. The abandonment of your values is the surrender of that last freedom. Reclaiming them is the ultimate reclamation of your humanity. The Matrix wants you to be a consequence of your environment. Your values allow you to be a cause. Do not go gently into that good night of social compliance. Burn, rage, choose. The life you save will be your own, and that is a victory that no system, no matrix, and no regret can ever take away from you. The mirror is waiting, and this time, you know exactly who you are. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The behaviors that showed you abandoned your values were not your identity. They were your armor. They were the ways you tried to survive a world that felt too heavy to carry. But you are stronger than you were when you put that armor on. You don't need to hide behind the they anymore. You don't need to anesthetize the fire in your heart. The regrets of the end of life are simply the ghosts of the no's you never said and the yeses you never meant. By saying them now, you lay those ghosts to rest. You turn the top 5 regrets into the top 5 principles of your daily existence. You move from the life of the machine to the life of the human. And in that transition, the Matrix doesn't just lose a slave, it loses its meaning. If this resonates, consider subscribing. Consider the metaphor of the ship again. You are not the ship, and you are not the cargo. You are the captain who has finally remembered how to read the stars. The storm is still there, and the waves are still high, but the destination has changed. You are no longer sailing toward the harbor of safety. You are sailing toward the horizon of truth. The 4 behaviors were the anchors that kept you moored in the harbor of the system. Pull them up. Let the wind of your own values catch the sails of your action. It is better to be lost at sea as yourself than to be safe in a harbor as a ghost. The ocean is vast, but for the first time in years, you are actually moving. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The system is a parasite of the authentic, but it cannot survive without your consent. Every time you act in alignment with your values, you starve the parasite. Every time you choose integrity over image, you drain the matrix of its power. This is the quiet revolution of the soul. It doesn't need a manifesto, it doesn't need a leader, and it doesn't need a crowd. It only needs a person who is tired of lying to themselves. It only needs a heart that values its own rhythm more than the ticking of the social clock. You are that person. This is that heart. The abandonment is over. The homecoming has begun. If this resonates, consider subscribing. In the final synthesis, the emptiness you felt was never a sign that you were broken. It was a sign that you were still alive enough to feel the absence of what matters. The matrix can only simulate meaning. It can never create it. True meaning is a byproduct of living your values in the face of a world that wants you to abandon them. It is the grit in the oyster that creates the pearl. The 4 behaviors were the grit. Your awakening is the pearl. Now take that pearl and throw it back into the world, not as a product to be sold, but as a gift to be given. Your authenticity is the only thing the system cannot replicate. It is your most powerful weapon and your most beautiful grace. If this resonates, consider subscribing. You began this essay looking for behaviors that show you abandoned your values, and you found them. But in finding them, you also found the path back. You found that the problem was the solution in disguise. The vazio, the void, was the canvas. The trauma was the teacher. The system was the test, and you are the answer. Stop asking what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive, people who have looked at the 4 behaviors of abandonment and said, no more. People who have decided that their values are worth more than their comfort. People who are willing to be the light in their own cathedral. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The behaviors of betrayal are the heavy stones we carry because we were told they were jewels. Drop them. Feel the lightness of your own hands. Feel the clarity of your own breath. The system will tell you that you are empty without its trinkets, but you are actually full for the first time. You are full of the only thing that lasts, the integrity of a life lived on its own terms. This is the end of the essay, but it is the beginning of the reframe. Look at your life again, not as a series of obligations, but as a series of choices. Not as a race to be won, but as a value to be honored. The matrix is behind you. The cathedral is open. Walk in. If this resonates, consider subscribing. There is a profound beauty in the realization that you have been wrong. To admit that you abandoned your values is the most honest thing a human being can do. It is an act of supreme courage. It is the moment the last man dies and the overman is conceived. Do not be ashamed of the years you spent in the dark. They are the contrast that makes the light so brilliant. The regrets of the end of life are only for those who never woke up. For you, there is only the present moment and the infinite possibility of choosing differently. The behaviors are gone. The values remain. The person you were meant to become is standing right here, waiting for you to say, yes. If this resonates, consider subscribing. We close this circular journey where we began, in the room that looks like your life, but the air is no longer thin. You look in the mirror and the stranger is gone. In their place is someone you haven't seen in a very long time. Someone who doesn't care about the system's metrics. Someone who isn't afraid of the void. Someone who knows that the most dangerous thing you can do in a world of lies is to live a life that is true. The 4 behaviors were just shadows on the wall. You have turned toward the fire. You have reclaimed your territory. You have come home. And as you step out of the room and into the world, remember this. The system didn't lose a worker. You regained a life. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The silence of the hospital room is no longer a threat because your life is no longer a silence. It is a symphony of yeses and nos that belong entirely to you. The Matrix is just a story we tell ourselves when we are too tired to be free, but you are not tired anymore. You are awake, you are integrated, you are whole. The abandonment of your values was the beginning of your wisdom, and your wisdom is the end of your abandonment. Go now and live in a way that makes the mirror smile back. For the greatest act of rebellion is not to destroy the system, but to be a person that the system cannot contain. If this resonates, consider subscribing. Everything you've done, every compromise you've made, every mask you've worn, it was all leading to this moment of clarity, the visceral realization that you are more than your utility, the existential certainty that your values are the only currency that matters in the end. The 4 behaviors were the map of your exile. Your heart is the map of your return. The cathedral is glowing. The stained glass is shattering into 1,000 new colors. The vending machines are broken. The silence is sacred again. You are not just a person with values. You are the living embodiment of those values in a world that desperately needs to see them. If this resonates, consider subscribing. To live without values is to be a ghost in your own story, haunting the rooms of a life you don't own. But today, the haunting ends. Today, you take possession. Today, you realize that the behaviors of abandonment were not failures, but invitations. Invitations to look deeper, to feel more, and to demand better. The system can have the world. You will have yourself. And in having yourself, you have everything that matters. The matrix is a dream, but your integrity is the awakening. The road ahead is uncertain, but your feet are finally on your own ground. Walk it with pride. Walk it with purpose. Walk it as you. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The behaviors of the system are designed to make you forget the weight of your own soul. They offer you the peace of the graveyard. But you have chosen the unrest of the living. You have chosen the friction of the real over the smoothness of the simulated. This is the reframe essay of your life. It is the shift from being a victim of your conditioning to being the author of your character. The 4 behaviors are now just footnotes in a story that is finally getting interesting. The matrix is flickering. The screen is fading. The real world is waiting for you to step into it. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The abandonment of your values was a quiet tragedy, but your reclamation of them is a loud triumph. It is the sound of a human being coming back to life. It is the sound of the boards being ripped off the windows of the soul. It is the sound of the truth being spoken after a lifetime of silence. Do not fear the noise. It is the sound of freedom. It is the sound of a value being lived. It is the sound of you. And as the final echoes of this reflection fade into the air, let them leave behind a single, unshakable truth. You are not what they made you. You are what you choose to become. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The behaviors were the chains, but the values were the key. You have always had the key in your pocket. You just forgot it was there. Now that you have found it, don't just unlock the door. Burn the door down. Don't go back to the way things were. Build something new. Build a life that doesn't need to be anesthetized. Build a life that doesn't need to be performative. Build a life that, when you reach the end of it, you can look back on and say, I was here. I was real. I was me. That is the only legacy that survives the matrix. That is the only value that never loses its worth. If this resonates, consider subscribing. We often think that the system is out there in the buildings and the laws and the algorithms, but the system is actually in here, in the habits of self-betrayal. To destroy the system is to destroy the habit. To be free is to be authentic. To have values is to be alive. You have seen the behaviors. You have felt the twist. You have heard the philosophers. You have walked through the metaphor. You have received the instructions. Now, there is only one thing left to do. Live. Live as if your values are the only thing keeping the world from falling apart. Because for you, they are. If this resonates, consider subscribing. This is the synthesis. This is the liberation. This is the end of the abandonment. The 4 behaviors that showed you left yourself are now the 4 pillars of your return. Use them to support the new cathedral. Use them to frame the new mirror. Use them to light the way for others who are still lost in the thin air of the matrix. You are the reframe. You are the essay. You are the truth. And in the end, when the silence of the hospital room finally comes for us all, it will not find a stranger. It will find a friend. It will find a soul that stayed. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The Matrix wants you to think that you are a drop of water in the ocean, destined to be lost in the blue. But your values make you the ocean in a drop of water. You are not a part of the system. The system is a part of the world you are choosing to leave behind. The behaviors of abandonment were the gravity that tried to keep you down. Your values are the wings that will take you up. Do not look back. The harbor is shrinking. The horizon is calling. The ship is yours. The stars are clear. The captain is awake. If this resonates, consider subscribing. We conclude with a final provocation. If you were to die tonight, would you be proud of the person who lived your life today? If the answer is no, then you have work to do. But if the answer is, I'm getting there, then you have already won. Because the victory is not in being perfect, it is in being honest. It is in the struggle to align the who you are with the what you do. It is in the refusal to let the matrix have the final word. Your values are the final word. Speak them, live them, be them. The mirror is watching. The cathedral is waiting. The world is yours to reclaim. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The abandonment of your values was a temporary departure, not a permanent loss. You are here now, and that is all that matters. The four behaviors were the shadows, but you are the light. The system was the lie, but you are the truth. The void was the beginning, but you are the end. Walk out of the room, walk out of the matrix, and walk into the life you were always meant to lead. The stained glass is beautiful, the altar is sacred, and the air is finally thick with the scent of a soul that has come home. If this resonates, consider subscribing.